Okay, gang, let's begin. You know what we're going to talk about today? Scaling. Scaling. And we talk about scaling, you know what we're going to be talking about? The distinction between area and volume. Do you guys know what area is? Area is measured in square centimeters, square meters, something like that, yeah? You know what volume is? Cubic meters, size. Got a question for you. See the water in here? I'm going to pour the water in this vessel into this one. And what you're going to do is you're going to make an estimate. When I pour the water in, it'll come to about halfway. No, it'll come to probably less than halfway. No, it'll probably come to more than halfway. Check your neighbor. See what your neighbor be estimating. Okay, gang, here we go. Appreciably more than halfway. Is that not amazing? You know what's going on here, gang? Guess what geometrical shape has the minimum area? A sphere. A sphere. That's why the sun and stars are round. That's why the earth is round. It's pulled into the least surface area. And a sphere has a very, very small volume compared to its, a small area compared to its volume. Now, this volume and this volume are one and the same. It turns out with little grade school kids, they can't see that. There's a certain stage of development that one must go to before they can deal. We can deal with these ideas, can't we, right? Okay? We know the volumes are the same. In fact, I could pour it right back and say, is it going to overflow, gang? Now that you've seen the answer, what are you going to say? But if you didn't see it before, what would you say? Isn't that something? So why is it that this looks to be so much more than this? Because this has considerably more area. The number of square centimeters of red you see here are much more than the number of square centimeters that you see here. So the area, volume, different. And here we're kind of judging the volume by what we see. But all you can see is the area, except that you can see through it. Isn't that kind of neat? And some really interesting things happen when you scale things up. You know, as you scale things up, like a plant starts to grow, as it gets bigger and bigger, it gets heavier and heavier, right? But it's got more and more surface area, yeah? When it gets twice as heavy, does it have twice the leaf area? Leaf area? And it turns out, answer begins with an N. All right, begins with an N and ends with an O. Try it. No, no. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay? We have all, am I being presumptuous in saying this? We all have, as little kids, have looked at little ants. We take the time to do that when we're kids. We look at little ants crawling around and lifting little boulders compared to their own size, yeah? And we marvel at how strong the ants are. Is there anyone in here who did not, as a child, stop and look at the ants and see them carrying little chunks of rock, and who did not marvel about how strong they seem to be? Who? Deprived childhood or something. Well, most of us have looked at such things, right? Let me ask you a question. How strong do you suppose that ant is? Strong or strong? Strong. For sure. Compared to what? Good point. Let's suppose this happens, gang. An elephant walks through this door. The elephant's going to start lifting up logs. A door over here, an ant walks through that's just as big as the elephant. A super ant. This super ant has been, I don't know how it's been done. Science fiction, okay? Scaled up. And it's scaled up so that ant, boom, 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 the same size as the elephant. Now they're going to have a contest to see who can lift the greater load. Who are you going to be betting on? Check your neighbor. Is there anyone in here who says, honey, the ant can't even do push-ups. The elephant is the one who's the strongest. Show of hands. All right, these are my people. These are the people who have read the book. The rest of you guys come in for a free lunch today, right? What's that thing all about, yeah? Come on. That ant couldn't make it. The legs are too skinny. Ants got skinny legs. Ever see a daddy long legs? You ever see a rhinoceros? An elephant? Humongous legs, very, very thick. Why? because as things get scaled up and scaled up and scaled up, it turns out the thickness of the leg doesn't catch up with the bulk of the body. Let's see if we can understand these ideas with a simple example. Here's a cube. If I make this cube twice as big, how much heavier will it be? Now, we got to say, Hewitt, what do you mean by twice as big? Here's what I mean. Twice as tall, twice as wide, and twice as thick. How heavy will it be compared to now? Check your neighbor. Here's one twice as big, gang. Twice as big has twice as much weight. Everyone say that, stand up so the rest of us can see what you look like. Really? The same guy? This guy is a clown. Okay, no, it turned out this one going to be how much heavier? 8 times. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 times as heavy, yeah? I'm counting the same one twice here. But 1 cube, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have to assume that there's one down the back there that we can't see, yeah? It's 8 times as much. So let me ask you a question. Let's suppose somebody walks in the door, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, athlete. Take that person, put him in a science fiction type machine, push the button, scaled up, 12 feet tall, shoulders twice as wide, chest twice as deep, twice as big. He don't weigh 200 pounds anymore. Now he weighs, check the neighbor. How much would the guy weigh, gang? How many say 1,600 pounds? That's right, see? Because if this block here weighs 2, what's this block weigh? 8 times 2. Now, I have a block here, but it would work with a person. It would work with, all the ideas we're going to talk about today will work with any shape. It's just that by working with little cubes, it's easier to get the principle. Now, how strong a person has to do with how thick their bones are. That person who's 1,600 pounds, if he jumped from here to the floor, he'd break his legs. It might be even jumping from a high curbstone to the ground. He'll break his legs. You know why? Are his legs thicker? Yup, they're twice as thick. And when it's twice as thick, okay, the cross-sectional area, let's suppose this is a leg bone. The cross-sectional area is like here, huh? What's the cross-sectional area of this piece over here? 4 times as much. Okay? So we have the cross-sectional area here of 1. When we double it up, it's 4. Let's look at the weight. And weight and volume are proportional. To say these 2 blocks have twice the volume as 1 block, and they have twice the weight. And over here we have what? Here's our block scaled up. Now a block 2 by 2 by 2. Look, this is 8 times as heavy because it's 8 times the volume. But the cross-sectional area is 4. So what do? That fellow's legs, or arms, okay, the thickness, the strength, the muscles have to do with the cross-sectional area. How many tendons you have there? How many not tendons, but how many little muscles pulling down, yeah? The cross-sectional area. And the cross-sectional here is 1. And the weight. Cross-sectional area is 1 to 1. But when you double the size of something, the cross-sectional area goes up to 4, but the weight goes up to 8. And 4 over 8, that's like 1/2. Let me ask you a question. What if you took that cube and you tripled the size? Triple the height, triple the width, triple the depth. Boom. What's it going to be? Now it's going to be something like this. Can you kind of see that? Can you count them up? Look where we get now. The cross-sectional area. What's the cross-sectional area now? Slice through that. 9. Now it's going to be, here's going to be 9. And what's the weight going to be? 27. 27, gang. Can you count them up? 3, 3, 3, 3, 9, 9, 3. And what do we got here? 1/3. As we keep going up and up and up, it turns out that the weight gets a lot bigger than the cross-sectional area. And you know what? The strength has to do with the cross-sectional area. So the strength to weight ratio goes down as things get bigger and bigger. So if you're going to scale that person up, he's going to make it in this world. He's going to have disproportionately thick legs. Much thicker legs than, say, in proportion to his body than, say, at 6 feet. If you look at the animals, the largest, the heaviest animals have disproportionately thick bones. You've got here a skeleton of a cat and a skeleton of an elephant, scaled so that they both have about the same size. Look at the size of the bones in the elephant's legs compared to the cat's legs. This is an illustration from a book by Steve Vogel. It's called Life's Devices, The Physical World of Plants and Animals. And so sure enough, elephants have thicker legs in proportion to their size than, say, daddy long legs or any other kind of insect. Because as things get bigger and bigger, the strength doesn't keep up with the weight. So you got to compensate and make extra thick legs. We are really designed for the environment in which we live, gang. That's the message. You know, you see the King Kong movies? King Kong all scaled up like that? No way. King Kong, scaled up in proportion, wouldn't be able to stand up. He'd be crushed by his own weight. Even whales have a hard time. Whales are just too darn big. And so whales, you know what happens to a whale when it gets beached? Pretty well crushed by its own weight. So it has to stay in the water that's buoyed up all the time. Large creatures, not so well designed for the world we live in. I can take a toothpick, and I can hold a toothpick between my fingers. You can't see the sag. The tiny sag that's there, you can't see. It's not noticeable. But take that same toothpick and scale it up. Let's suppose you make it 10 times bigger. 10 times longer, 10 times thicker, 10 times wider. Is it going to be heavier? 10 times as heavy? No. It turns out the volume goes up as the cube. So it's 10 times 10 times 10. It will be 1,000 times as heavy. How about the cross-sectional area, the strength? That'll go up as the square. 10 times 10. So it'll be 100 times stronger. But carrying 1,000 times the weight, gang, you would see it sag noticeably. That's why people who make models of bridges out of toothpicks, and they think all they got to do is make a bigger one out of, bigger materials, and it turns out they crash. It turns out that engineers get paid a lot of money to do things like make skyscrapers. You know the Golden Gate Bridge? When the Golden Gate Bridge was being built, being planned, a lot of people who knew about this sort of thing said, no way, honey, you're not going to make a bridge that big. You can make a little model, but when you scale it up, the strength to weight ratio is going to kill you. And it turned out they were able to do it anyway. And even some of the skyscrapers we build today are really marvels of engineering because they're having to deal with this idea of the strength to weight ratio. Any questions? I want to talk about the idea of the total area of something. What's the total area of this cube? Let's call this 1 unit. Then the area, the total area is 1 here, 2, 3, 4. Can you see there's 6 sides? Okay. So I have a total area here of 6. So far I've been talking about cross-sectional area, just the area through here. Let's talk about the total area. Total area to weight or to volume. Let's call it volume. Area to volume. Okay. Here it's 6 to 1. What am I putting 6 to 1 over here for? Because there's six square units compared to 1 cubic unit. All right? The volume of this is this times this times this, 1 cubic unit. The area is 1 times 1, but you get 6 of them. 6. So it's 6 to 1. Now what happens to the ratio of surface area to volume as you scale up? The consequences of that are very important. It turns out there's a mismatch. Because as you scale up, the area is going to increase as the square of the increase. But the volume increases as the what? Cube. Let me show you what I mean. Over here, I've made my thing twice the size. So my area now is going to be what? It's going to be 4 on any side times 6 is 24. When I double it up, I've got a total area of 24 square units. Do you see that? Counting all the sides, yeah? What's the volume?
8.
8. What's my ratio
3 to 1.
of area to volume?
3 to 1.
My ratio is 3 to 1. My ratio for the small thing was 6 to 1. A lot more area compared to volume over here. Less area compared to volume. What happens over here? What's my total area for a 3 by 3 by 3?
54.
Every one side is 9. 9 sixes. 54. 54 total area. Unit area. What's my unit volume?
27.
27. 27 into 54?
2 over 1.
Calculator?
2 to 1. 2 over 1.
I've already looked it up. Let me tell you. It's 2 to 1. Okay? The message is this, gang. As things scale up, up, up in size, the ratio of area to volume goes down, 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 down. That means little things have more skin, more surface compared to their volume than big things. Every cook kind of knows when they're going to buy some potatoes, they're onto this. Let's suppose you're going to buy some potatoes and you're going to peel some potatoes and cook up some potatoes home. You've got to have the friends over, okay? Mashed potatoes, no skins. So you got to peel them all. Now someone says, and you find out you want to get 2 kilograms of potatoes. Now, should you get 2 kilograms of big potatoes or 2 kilograms of little potatoes to feed the most people? How about you get 2 kilograms of little potatoes? The little cherry ones, the little cute ones? Man, you peel those things, okay? You got a pile of peelings like this, yeah? How about you peel the big potatoes? A little pile. So you got more potato per kilogram if you get the big ones. After you get through peeling. Let's suppose your mother says, hey, I want you to peel something for me. What do I got to peel, Ma? You just got to peel a pound of fruit. Okay, then I can go out. Yeah, you can go out after that. What's the fruit, Ma? Raisins. And you're going to spend your whole weekend peeling those raisins. Okay? They're little. They're an awful lot of skin per pound, per kilogram. See what I'm saying? And something big, a little bit of skin per kilogram. So little things have more surface area compared to their weight, compared to their volume, than big things. Did you ever notice that before? You got a glass, you got an ice, you got a drink, you want to cool it. Someone says, put an ice cube. Someone else says, no, crush the ice cube up, then put it in. It'll make the drink cold faster if you crush it up. Someone else say, it's the same amount of ice either way. Make no difference. You say, person next to you say, what's the answer again? How many people say, it's the same amount of ice, it's going to cool it the same way either way. Make no difference. Hey, wait a minute though. Hey, wait a minute. No, if you crush the ice, you're going to get a whole lot of little pieces. And a whole lot of little pieces will have more combined area than the big piece. Crush it up. Crush it up. How many people say yeah? Yay. And you got a great big log and you want to light it with a match. Someone says, leave it in a great big log, it'll last longer. Say, yeah, but it won't light. Say, take your match and what do you do with a log? You shave off little pieces. And when you got little pieces, why will it catch fire quicker? More surface area. More surface area. Yeah. You got some steel wool sitting on your sink. And the steel wool gets rust out in 1 month, it's gone. But the same hunk of steel from which it was made will stay there for a year. How come the steel wool gets rusty and rusts away? And the hunk of steel, like, doesn't? More what? SA. Surface area. Yeah. You're going to cook some French fries. You get little skinny ones. Going to cook faster than big fat ones? Why? More surface area. You make it some meatballs. Kind of taking a long time to cook, so you flatten them out, so there's more surface area. Cook faster? Yeah, cook faster. Big people, Lee.
Why can ants breathe through their skin?
Say again?
I think ants breathe through their skin.
Insects breathe through their skin. They got a lot of skin or a little skin compared to that which they have to nourish. Begin with an L. A lot, okay? Human beings can't do that. You know why? We're too big. So we have to have another system altogether. So we've developed what? An awful lot of surface area. It's all inside. Take your lungs, gang, and flatten them out. Cover the rug of all this room and 2 other rooms too. You have enormous surface area in your lungs, all those little mini folds. And so you make up for that too. How about the intestines of a being? What's the intestines of a worm look like? Straight line tube from mouth to back, huh? How about the intestines of something big like a human being? Many, many folds. You know why? Because as you get bigger and bigger, you've got more and more to nourish. And you've got to get more and more surface area. Living cell, okay, gets bigger and bigger, right? Let's suppose a living cell gets double the size. Someone say, oh, double the size, then you'd got 4 times as much skin. But 4 times as much skin feeding how much more cell? 8 times as much cell. So it keeps growing and growing. Honey, the skin don't keep up with the cell that's got to be fed. So you know what it's going to do? It's going to die. Or divide. Guess what it do? It divides. Aren't you glad that they divide? Because it can't keep growing and growing and growing. You die in the inside, yeah? And so it divides. And that's why cells divide. Or I can say not why they do, but if they don't, they die. Cells have to divide and keep to get. Why? Because the skin compared to volume keeps getting less and less as it gets big, big, big. So it's got to break into little pieces, smaller pieces. Kind of neat, huh? Kind of relevant, yeah? Turns out that little things have more skin than big things. How about little people? Little people have more skin than big people? When I was a kid, they always used to call me skinny. You know why they called me skinny? Looking back, I can see why. Because like I told you guys before, I weighed about 85 pounds in freshman in high school. Whenever all my friends weighed over 100. You're skinny! In fact, I used to find out that walking in the cold streets of Boston, I always used to seek the sunny side in the winter. I have to get in the sun, honey, to keep warm. My friends could, I'd be healthy friends, they could walk in the shade. Say, Hewitt, how come you're walking in the sun? Someone says, because he's skinny. That's true, because I was skinny. You know what that means, skinny? Too much skin compared to my body. Where do you radiate your heat, gang? Through your what? You begin with SK. Skin, okay? Through your surface. You're radiating all the time. You're losing heat. You're warmer than the environment. And so you're radiating off heat all the time. Who radiates off heat the most? The one with the most skin or the one with the least skin? The one with the most skin. And the most skin per body weight are skinny people or smaller people. Big people don't radiate so much compared to the body weight. Little things like little animals, like rats and mice, they're little, yeah? They got a lot of skin compared to their weight. And so they're radiating heat disproportionately compared to us. Elephants, hardly at all. But a little mouse, a little shrew. You know, there are shrews that can eat almost constantly to stay alive, just to generate the heat, to stay warm. When they run out of food, they eat each other. And like a mouse eats almost its weight every day just to stay alive. And another thing too, you won't find mice up high in the mountains where it's cold. They can't make it. They simply can't make it. They'd have to eat food faster than they could get it. And so you find even birds, little birds, tiny birds. You see the birds, what are birds doing all the time? Eating, 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 eating. It's, come on, you had your dinner, you had your lunch, how come you're still eating? Birds all the time eating. Why? Because they got a lot of skin. They're radiating heat like mad compared to their size. You got a pet bird and you don't feed it and don't feed it someday, it'll probably die that night. So little things have to eat a disproportionate amount of food just to keep up with what? The fact they have more skin, more radiating area. How about an elephant? Give an elephant a handful of peanuts, it's all set for 3 days, okay? The elephant's all inside. Elephant doesn't have very much skin compared to its body weight.
How come snakes can go a year then without eating?
Well, snakes are cold-blooded too, though, yeah?
Yeah.
And so cold-blooded things, I think that they don't have to contend with this thing. They don't have to eat to stay warm. They're not warm anyway. So a snake, a reptile, things like that don't have this problem. I should have prefaced this and said mammals or warm-blooded creatures, creatures that are warmer than the environment. Where do they get that warmth? That's energy, honey. And where does that energy come from? It's got to come from something. They'll digest themselves and lose weight, or they'll have to digest nutrients from the outside. So warm-blooded creatures are the ones that really have this problem. They can't get too small without having to eat enormous amounts of food. A hummingbird. Honey, hummingbird really got to keep fueled up all the time. It's so small. It's warm-blooded. And the hummingbird got to get a lot of food. And they get the nectar, very high energy, high sugar content, yeah? But a hummingbird, man, you got to go from station to station without running out. Die quickly without the food. How about the elephant scan? You be knowing why the elephant's got big ears. What if you play a trick and the elephant cut off its ears? What's it going to do? It's going to roast to death. Right? Elephant doesn't have very much surface area. And the elephant's in the warm country. And the elephant got to radiate off the energy. Okay? How's it going to do it? It don't have enough skin. It puts out more skin. You see the size of those ears? On a hot day, those ears come out. On a cold day, slap against the body, yeah? On a hot day, they come out. They're radiating surfaces. They're radiating surfaces. They increase the area of the elephant so he can make up for that area it doesn't have. So big things don't have as much skin as little things compared to the body weight. Why do you chew food? Why don't you just, like your friends do that, take a hamburger, it's gone in one bite, okay? You chew the food to make smaller pieces so you can digest it easily, more easily, see? More surface area. You increase the surface area. Let's talk about falling things. You guys know if your pet hamster falls off the roof, pet hamster's okay. If your pet mouse falls off the top of a tall roof, the mouse runs away, it's okay. How about a horse? Splash, okay? Or a human being, crunch, okay? But little things can fall great distances without hurting themselves. I wonder if that have anything to do with what we're talking about today. Yeah. If you're going to jump from an airplane and you want to live, you increase your surface area by you get yourself a parachute. And you get that parachute and you increase your area, yeah? Does a mouse have to do that? Does an insect have, does an ant have to do that? Honey, an ant is a parachute. An ant got so much area compared to its weight, it float, walk away. Okay? So it turns out that little things have the advantage when they fall because they'll reach their terminal velocities very quickly. Little things, that's because they have a lot of surface area compared to their weight. Let's talk about terminal velocities. I got here some coffee filters, gang. I got 2 coffee filters. These will reach their terminal velocity very quickly. Watch this. That's strange. They fell at the same time. That's not strange at all. They both have the same amount of weight, and they both have the same amount of air resistance. What if I take and make one twice as heavy by putting 2 together? Which one will hit the ground first? The heavier one. Did you see that? The heavier one because it has a greater weight compared to its air resistance. Okay? Now, here's the thing we got to look at. There's the weight, and there's the resistance. When these things fall, they reach their terminal velocity very, very quickly. Now, that resistance depends upon how fast it's going. Maybe that resistance is proportional to the speed. If it is, if it's directly proportional to speed, then that means the distance something falls. Remember the distance is speed times time? That would mean then that this would be proportional to the resistance, this would be proportional to the weight, that the distance something falls would be proportional to the weight multiplied by the time. If that's true, that means something twice as heavy will fall twice as far in the same time. Let's see if that's true. Ted, can I have your help? I've got a 2-meter stick here, gang. Ted, could you hold that 2-meter stick up? This is Ted Bradstrom, TA. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this one up here, 2 meters high, and this one 1 meter high, and I'm going to drop them at the same time. If the resistance is proportional to velocity, they'll hit the ground at the same time, because this one will fall twice as far as this. Okay? Let's try it and see. They did not hit at the same time. So, hypothesis, no good. But let's suppose the resistance is compared, stay right there, Ted, is compared to the velocity square. All right? If it's proportional to the velocity square, then that means velocity square, proportional to resistance, proportional to weight, that means the velocity would be proportional to the square root of the weight. Can you see that? If that's true, then the distance something falls would be equal to the square root of the weight. So if I had something twice as heavy, that greater distance it falls would be proportional to twice the square root of the weight times the time. But that's proportional to, and this is that. So if it's true that the resistance is proportional to speed squared, then the distance one falls is going to be equal to square root of 2 times the weight. Do you know what the square root of 2 is, anyone? It turns out to be 1.414, okay, times the little distance. If that's true, if I hold this thing up 1.4 times higher than this, they should hit the ground at the same time. Shall we try it? I've got this marked off. So this distance here is d, and up here turns out to be 1.4 times higher than d. So I'm going to put the twice as heavy one up here, and this down here, and drop them and see if they hit the same time. Ready? Mark, set, go. Did you see that? Same time. Let's try it one more time.
Do it on this side. Do it on both sides.
Okay. Oh, the heavy one on top. And the light one doesn't mark. Right? Right here? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. See that? Same time. This ball here has twice the diameter of this one. It's twice as high off the table. Twice the diameter, that means it has 8 times the weight. Okay? This one here has 8 times as much weight, but 4 times as much area. So what's the ratio? 2 weights to 1 area. The same ratio we had over here. I should be able to drop these with one ball 1 unit high, the other 1.4 unit high, and when I do that though, watch this gang. They don't fall together. You know why? Because they didn't reach their terminal velocities. The balls really are too heavy. So what I could do is I get lighter balls where it reached the terminal velocity right away. When I drop this thing here, it didn't have to go very far at all before it reached its TV. Maybe accelerated for about 1 centimeter. Then it's TV all the way down. So you know what I'm saying? But these things will accelerate all the way to the floor. But if I put these in a more viscous medium, then they won't accelerate, but for a tiny, tiny bit. And we can do that with this container of water. Ted? Ted and I have been playing around with this day before yesterday. What we got here now is we got a couple of spheres. And one is twice the diameter of the other. Means it weighs 8 times as much, and it's got a weight area ratio of 2 to 1. So when I drop these two things both at the same time, of course the heavy one will hit first. You see that? But what I'm going to do, I'm not going to drop them. You guys are wondering, yeah? Yeah, Ted was doing that yesterday, man. His arm was get long arms. So we made this little thing made up. Isn't that kind of neat? See? So here's what we're going to do. This is Ted's idea, by the way. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put this up here. Oh, no. It's my idea to screw it up. Okay. I'll put the bottom, this one here. Oh, what we've done is we've measured this off. From here to here is D, and from here to here is 1.4 times D. This is a little bit longer, of course, you can see. And it's at 1.4. Same thing we got with the cups. So let's try it now. There we go. Oh, that's why we get this. Okay.
Oh, more water.
Ooh, we gotta get more water. See if we can find it out now again. Okay, here we go, gang. The little one here. Big one here. And I'm going to flip this off to the side and see if you don't see them both fall at the same. Yeah. Huh? Ain't that nice? Okay. So heavy things will fall faster or the same as light things? Faster. These fell at the same time because one, of course, was higher. One had to go a greater distance. Ain't that nice? Okay. Yeah, do it one more time.
Oh, one more time.
Yeah.
Why not?
If these were a couple of dead fish and a couple of dead fish were going down, which dead fish would get to the bottom first, a big one or a little one?
Big one.
A big one. Big one will fall faster, yeah?
To float.
You have any friends that swim? You have any friends that are like competition swimmers? You know any competition swimmers who are, look at that. You know any competition swimmers who are small? Would this effective scaling be useful or non-useful to a small swimmer? Two people fall off a cliff in a vacuum. Big person, small person. Which one hits the ground first? Same. Now, two people fall off a cliff in the air. One's heavy, one's light. Which one hits the ground? I took these two balls here. One's heavy, one's light. Which one went faster through the water? Heavy. Which swimmer will more easily go through the water? Heavy. And the light one, huh? You got to do some tricks or something to keep up with the heavy one. That's right. So big boats usually go faster than small boats. Big fish swim smaller than the fast fish. The small fish. You know, big fish open up the mouth and just go, right? The little fish can't keep up. The little things have more resistance compared to their strength. The effects of scaling. Yay.